Alright, now let's pause it right here. We've all heard someone tell us that Mexico is dangerous, that it's not safe to visit or even live here. Well, after almost 2 years of living in Mexico, we're still alive. Contrary to what many people believe or say, Mexico is actually a really amazing place to live and enjoy life. Now yes, there are certain life adjustments you'll have to make, and just like any city in the States, there are certain places you should avoid. But today I'm going to be discussing about our experience here in Mexico and giving you some advice if you have ever thought about visiting or coming to live here in Mexico. So to start off, just like before choosing to live in any home or city, you want to make sure you do your homework beforehand. Research, and ask friends who have lived in that city or that area what their thoughts are about it. But along with that, you want to make sure you get personal advice from people who have lived in that area. So for us, we actually asked our friends who had lived in Vallarta for 4 years about what their thoughts are about these different areas of the city and where they suggested we live, come to live here full time. These people will provide so much information and insights that you can't find online, and it's so helpful to get their advice before making the big move to the city you want to live in. Now, once you've done all these things, make sure you get to know the city layout. Where is the downtown area? Where is the suburbs? Where are the nice houses? Where are the poor houses? So make sure you get to know the whole scale of the city, because this will help you understand the layout of the city and how it all works together. So finally, we highly suggest that you actually go and visit the city you want to live in for a couple months or even up to a year, renting out a temporary home. For our own experience, we would highly suggest this. We've lived in 2 different places now in Mexico, in Guadalajara and also here in Puerto Vallarta. And in both places that we have chosen to rent out for a longer time period has allowed us to really get a feel for the area that we're living in. Now for us, we're always renting, so we're able to pick up and move, and we feel like living in one area is not suited best for us. We can simply renew a new contract in a new house the following year. But for those who are looking to buy a home here, we highly suggest coming to rent a place here for a couple of months or even up to a year to really get a feel for the city. Even rent a place out in different parts of the city throughout the year to really get a feel for how those different colonials work together here in Mexico. Because from our personal experience, when you come in to look at a home and look at the neighborhood, on the outside it can all look very nice. The home can look great, the street can look great, the house around it can look great. But the overall feel you don't really get to know very well until you actually live there. With the noises going on during the daytime, the noises going on during the nighttime, it's always changing throughout the whole year, throughout the seasons, throughout the day and night. The feel of where you want to live changes. So this is why we highly recommend you rent a place before you choose to buy a home. That way you can feel confident knowing that where you want to live in the neighborhood, you love a lot, you feel secure about it, and that's the place you want to live. Now obviously living in another country, you're going to experience a different kind of neighborhood and home life than what you're used to back in the States or for wherever you're from. So this also play into your decision of choosing to buy a home or even rent a home long term here in Mexico. Now for us, this is actually our second long-term rental in Mexico, and we have actually chosen to live in what's called a coto, which is basically just a gated community. When we lived in Guadalajara at our first house, we just lived in a house that was on a main road, and so our house just had a security fence in front of it, and then it was well protected, but it was a different kind of feel than what you get living in a gated community per se. For us, it was very hard to get to know people in our first home since we were behind a wall and then all of our neighbors were behind their own walls. It was very hard to be social with the people around us. For our second home though, we have chosen, as I said, to live in a coto. This has been a great experience for us to get to know our neighbors and the community better here where we live. Because we live in the coto, there are no gates in front of any of the houses. They're all open to the inside of the coto, which is much more of a friendly environment for us to walk around and meet neighbors that way. There's also a large park in the middle of our coto, which is a great place for the kids to go and hang out and have a good time, and for us to walk our dog or just be out socializing with more people who live in our neighborhood. So obviously there are some pros and cons to living in a house on the street and also living in a house in a gated community. Obviously the more pros for living on the street is you have more flexibility since it's just your home. You don't have to worry about any security guards or anything like that. You can come and go as you please. You can have whoever you want come over to your house. And so in terms of that, it is a much easier lifestyle. And the other huge advantage about choosing to rent or buy a home just off the street is you have way more options. In terms of cotos or gated communities here, depending on the city you choose to live in, there's a much fewer selection and homes to choose from when you want to live in one of those gated communities. So if you want more options and more locations to choose from for where you want to live, we highly recommend living off the street. As long as you, like we said, do your research in the neighborhood and make sure it's still a nice neighborhood or a safe neighborhood to live in. But some of the pros of the coto, as we said, is you do have security guards and it is a gated community, so you have that sense of security of your home and your belongings. and you can walk around your neighborhood, just a total peace of mind because you're walking around just in your own secured neighborhood pretty much. But both choices have their pros and cons, so we highly recommend that you do your own research and choose which home would be better suited for you. So to sum things up, yes, Mexico is safe to come to. Yes, you can enjoy life here, and yes, we highly recommend you come for a visit. So that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I shall catch you guys in the next one.